What I'd like each of the table hosts to do is to stand up and just give us two of whatever ones you want to give us. It's not that your ideas or thoughts or concerns won't get up there. It's just that you can only give us two because we got to keep on trucking.
One of the main points made here was they'd like to see the promotional marketing for like a Made in Marin label that will not necessarily differentiate or promote organic versus natural versus conventional, that Made in Marin label means something regardless of what type of production is being marketed. And then another key point that was brought up was kind of a combination of the Ag 1 and Ag 2 cafes, was a little bit more of a streamlining in the permitting process in agriculture, potentially educating the necessary departments in the county to make things a little bit easier for the agricultural industries to be able to streamline their permitting process and make it a little bit more feasible and easy to get the things they need to make their businesses thrive.
Two of the main points: education of non-ag landowners, specifically people who say might live in McMansions, who have tons of land that could be used for grazing, but it's not. That land goes to seed, quote unquote, but it could be used in a better way. Another point is inheritance tax. It's prohibitive, and it might hamper succession, and among other things.
Educating and marketing local product, in other words, getting it out to the public, the importance of buying local. And then Marin will have an infrastructure for ag processing and distribution, potentially the 101 corridor or elsewhere as appropriate.
Look at changing the labor laws. I know that's a big issue. Change labor laws to help small-scale family farms. And another one we want to use is, what a surprise, we need to have on-farm slaughter and a local slaughter facility. There needs to be park recognition that National Park Ag and Aquaculture are 20% of Marin's total agriculture, and long-term support are essential for the county, and that the park should be a model for the nation. And then we also had one, which I haven't written up the language, but Marin will have an adequate plan for water supply for local agriculture. In the context of successional planning was to incorporate the natural resource values in property instead of it going entirely on real estate values as a way to help with that process. And we also had a suggestion about getting people more educated and participating in the local coastal planning update reports.
So we had a lot of great ideas. One of them was education of the next generation, not necessarily relatives, but just the younger generation. And then, of course, we need some cheap money. We need startup and operating loans.
A need we identified is for transportation, and we discussed railroads coming from the east inbound to bring materials in. And also that traditional ranching models need assistance getting into the niche market. So not everybody has the capital, or not everybody is an entrepreneur. So some kind of programming assistant business model development for that.
We need assistance with communication in West Marin. So high-speed internet is key, especially if you're getting into direct marketing.
Initiating better partnerships with the environmental regulations in agriculture, especially to have less environmental regulations so new technologies could emerge. We also mentioned the fact that we want farmers to be prosperous, and we also want the agricultural workers to be prosperous.
Having a county mandated program where a percentage of food that is grown in Marin or locally is bought by local restaurants, schools, so on. And another one is to amp up the entrepreneurial program. And so I know Lisa Bush has been instrumental, but also to have more help to get businesses off to a really good start, and so they can get through all the bureaucratic red tape that sometimes is in place.
Most of the food in Marin comes from West Marin, and try to get as much as that food that's produced in West Marin back in the West Marin schools. That was an important part. Another bullet that was hit on was creating some sort of processing facility. I know we talked about distribution,
but also having a processing facility similar to like the kitchens, but a facility where folks could experiment making products such as cheese, dairy products, ice cream, that kind of thing, before they invest the capital on farm to create something like that, so a partnership. And here's another very important one, is for the county to waive farmers market stall fees for local Marin County farm producers at the farmers market.
Our group also talked about the processing aspect with a little bit more emphasis on the distribution piece and the idea of creating a shared facility, shared resources to help producers kind of spread the cost of the intensity of labor related to processing and particularly distribution. Our group talked about those emergency times when farmers have a sudden change in the market, and the suggestion was to have a resource that would provide kind of gap or emergency funding in those very difficult situations to help people get through hard times. We talked a lot about the environmental regulations and environmental concerns. In a nutshell, it was a conversation about providing more carrots and less sticks, and that ranged from not only the permitting question, but also helping regulators understand that ranchers have actually helped create an environment where important species are able to still exist. Red-legged frogs was one example. And in particular, we touched on the point that there should be a way to compensate farmers and ranchers for those ecosystem benefits, wildlife and habitat benefits. We also suggested working with the new buyers of agricultural lands, the people who are creating big estates, to provide, to bring them into a meaningful role in the agricultural industry.
That was a lot of incredible ideas, some new, some old, some we just need to bring back until we actually do them, right? Or we need to do them longer and better. Were there any other that surfaced at your tables that absolutely have not been spoken to that you want to right now?
Two things. One is the spread of distaff on our ranches needs to be checked, and the individual ranchers are not going to be able to do this. Where it now exists, it is a terrible scourge, and on some ranches it has taken over 50% of their pasture. It's going to go to your ranch, coming to a ranch near you. So get interested in getting rid of distaff. The other thing is generational transfer. Many of us are not spring chickens anymore, and this is a problem we need to solve. If we pass on and 6 of our kids inherit the ranch, it's going to be a big problem.
I would like to be able to walk into any store in Marin County, that Safeway, Whole Foods, or just the local store on the corner, and find products that are grown in Marin at every location.
10 years, I want to see hundreds and hundreds of students every year doing work experience on farms throughout the region in a way to get experience they wouldn't have otherwise, and to support the small farmers in a way that current labor laws are preventing that from happening.
Have the Marin County take back their coast and control, not let the Coastal Commission control it as it pertains to agriculture.
One thing that we never mentioned, and I think to get anywhere within the next 10 years, what we really, really need and have had in the past, and is a very important part of our overall county involvement, is the continued need and support for our local RCD and USDA and the programs that they, nowhere along the line did we mention them, but they have done a lot for us, and we're going to continue to need them in the future. So I just wanted them to get their just due.
The discussion here with the 8 people at this table, all 8 of us had different ideas. And that's the problem with our whole country today. So our resolution is, let's not be like the Republicans and the Democrats. Let's bring everybody to the middle of the table so we can solve some of these issues, because we're never going to solve them if we don't. In our particular venue here was the environmentalists and the farmers, and there's a lot more. I know there's been a lot that's been done over the last few years, but there's a lot more that can be done, and I think that environmentalists can support farming in Marin County, and I think about renewable energy as one perfect example of that. So.
Incredible job. Give yourselves a pat on the back, or pat on your neighbor's backs. You know, this is a lot of information, and throughout the day, Constance and I will actually be kind of sorting through them and separating out the duplicates, and we won't throw them away. We'll put them in another area. But anything that says exactly the same thing, so that we'll clean up this wall and sort it a little bit as we move into the next part of our days. Constance and I spent quite a bit of time sorting out all the wonderful stuff that you came up with. On the back, what we did is, for the people who answered in the future, you know, where you want marine agriculture to be in 10 years, it was things like, you know, what will it look like? Solid sales outlets, coho running strong, growers are not on the edge, a reliable revenue stream for, Steve, move over, a reliable revenue stream for viable agriculture. The true value of food, understanding the true value of food and having consumers support that. Marin being carbon neutral, prosperity of ag workers, having a food security plan, farms prospering, great programs at the local college, and regulations supporting small diverse ag. And you can kind of see where we're going with that, or where you're going with that. And then over here, these were sort of the categories that popped up. Land management, and this had, you know, this is big, and it had everything to do from making sure that land stayed in agriculture to helping manage weeds for pasture production, and obviously that includes distaff, and also partnership, either with new farmers or with environmentalists. Water, always an issue for us here in Marin County. Labor, from changing labor laws to help small-scale family farms, to housing, and I know you know, that the housing project is just beginning here in the county. For those of you who are involved in that, finance, getting cash to do all the kinds of things that we want to do, including dealing with the inheritance tax, which is a huge obstacle for people wanting to pass on to the next generation if you have a large family. Generational transfer topics, again, inheritance tax popping up, but business and estate planning, to how do you actually do it? 2 columns for permitting, and so everything from more of Lisa to providing more carrots and less of a stick. Again, assistance in really streamlining, so that you want to be able to diversify. How can we truly make that happen on the ground? Infrastructure, lots of infrastructure, from cheese aging caves, not aging caves. You're right. You know, the securing a local meat processing plant, which is big on everybody's minds for such a long time here. And also distribution and cold storage, safe equipment, shared infrastructure. So a lot on infrastructure, and how that also ties in with our sister county, Sonoma. Education, a lot of education, and some of it's about educating lots of people, from ag inspectors to consumers to new farmers. So it's weaves all around all parts of agriculture, educating legislators. And then distribution, again, that kind of got picked up in infrastructure as well. How to get our produce, no matter produce, products, whatever they are, to the consumer. And then marketing, lots and lots on marketing and promotion, from things that are very specific, like beef, to just having a more pervasive approach to Marin identity, to so many grown in Marin labels that we had to staple or tape them all together. There's like 9 or 10 of them right here. So that gives you a sense of what's important in terms of numbers that people are responding to. And then all the row crop processor, livestock, and dairy that we heard right before lunch. So lots of stuff.